I first met Rhonda on the 1st of February in 2018 at a dinner party that was convened by Bob Stevenson and his wife Rose to celebrate a medal in the Order of Australia I'd received on Australia Day the week before. He'd asked if his mother Anne could bring a friend, Rhonda, along and attend the dinner because they were house guests. I said, that's fine, as long as the dinner party is still all about me.
From my point of view, I was just looking forward to a lovely dinner and meeting new people.
My first impression of Rhonda was that she was outgoing, filled the room with gales of laughter, and had a great generosity of spirit. I was especially admiring of this because I was to learn that her husband of 45 years, Richard, had died 2 years before from cancer, after Rhonda had nursed him for 5 years.
Yeah, and from my point of view, I ended up sitting beside Rob, coincidentally, and he was lovely to talk to. I really enjoyed the banter between Rob Stevenson and Rose, and all in all it was a fun night, which I didn't think too much of, except that it was enjoyable.
After dinner we went back to Bob and Rose's for a nightcap, and it was there that after a few drinks I thought to myself, what a fun person Rhonda is. It would be nice to get to know her a little more. And I asked her for her mobile number when she was too intoxicated to know what she was actually doing. On the walk back that night to where I was staying, I thought to myself, you know, she was a lovely lady, but really how stupid of me to ask for her number. When she lived in Jimboomba, south of Brisbane, I lived in Sydney, and I'd promised my daughter that I'd settle down for 6 months at least in Sydney after 18 months of a nomadic life. But on that walk back, it became clear to me as I prayed in gratitude for a great night with great friends that I was to pursue Rhonda Elliott.
We actually staggered home. We staggered home from the restaurant, and again the banter continued. And then at the end of the night, Rob asked me for my phone number, and I thought, oh, what am I doing? This is crazy. But I gave it to him anyway. And that night in bed, Anne said, don't worry, he just wants a friend. And I thought, well, I love my friends. I can always have more friends, so I was happy with that.
I contacted Rhonda the next day and said by happy coincidence I was visiting some dear family friends, Gary and Lynn Stone, who lived near Mount Tamborine, and would have time to drive up and maybe we could have lunch together. We did so. It was very pleasant. We discovered we had the same sense of humour, and I left in the hire car, but with an impression that I was possibly complicating the life of a widow who already had a good group of friends. She was well settled in her home, and I thought, well, that might be the last visit, but nonetheless we'd had a good time.
When Rob contacted me the next morning, the warning bells went up, and I messaged back and said, you do realise I'm not intellectual in any way, don't you? I do have empathy, I always do my best, and I have a sense of humour. So he messaged back and said, I very much value somebody with a sense of humour, empathy, and who always does their best. And I thought, my sister's going to love the intellect of this man. Let's see where this goes.
Back in Sydney, I called Rhonda now and again and was still receiving clear messages that I should maintain contact and see where things might lead. So I came up again to visit, claiming quite untruthfully that I had business with Gary and Lynn, and we had dinner this time, and there was enough trust for me to stay overnight. And the next morning, before I left, I thought to myself, maybe I would risk a kiss. So I asked Rhonda for a farewell kiss, and with her lips firmly together and leaning forward, with her pelvis as far back as possible without falling over, I received a peck upon my lips. I got into the car and thought, given that we'd a sense of humour, and I got out and said, look, that was so good, I would like one more kiss before I go. She did exactly the same thing, lips together, pelvis thrust well back, and a peck upon my closed lips. As I drove back, I thought to myself, that's gone well, hasn't it?
Well, you know, you had to realise that I had been married for 45 years, widowed for 2 years, and gone out with Rich for 2 years before we married. So I'm thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? But I still hung in there.
I prayed on the way back to Sydney and said, dear God, I've done my best. I've kept in contact, but I think I'm just complicating Rhonda's life. I think I'm now becoming a bit needy, a little bit pathetic, and I'm not 100% well mentally. So I think it's time to wind back. I left it a couple of weeks and then rang Rhonda, and she'd been on a holiday with her friend Anne to Evans Head. I detected immediately that her attitude towards me had changed.
This is a hard part to share because it sounds crazy, and if it hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't believe it. It hasn't happened before, and it's never happened since. But at Evans Head, Rich came to me. It wasn't a dream. I've dreamt about him many times. His face just came in, and it was the most beautiful look on his face, the most beautiful smile. And then he went, and all I kept saying was, don't go, don't go. And the next morning I didn't say anything to Anne, and I didn't say anything to Rob when he phoned. But Rob said to me, you're different. And I was different. I felt like a whole weight had lifted, and from then on we just went forward. It was right.
Well, now it was my turn to be a bit bewildered and uncertain. I still felt a bit unsettled and not mentally 100%. However, something had changed, and so I sent my first bunch of flowers and declared officially that I was courting. We spent some weeks talking on the phone and exploring and sharing our stories, and generally finding that there was a real connection developing. So I went up for a third visit. We got on well, and over the next several months, during visits, when we went on dates, she introduced me around to her friends as her new toy boy.
Well, you are younger. I didn't have any problems after that. After Evans Head, I was ready. I was ready to move forward and happy to move forward. And I had the full support of Richard's family and my family, so all was good.
I moved up to Surfers Paradise and rented a flat with a view to sort of still having enough room for us to discover whether we wanted to be together. We decided, after falling in love, that we would downsize and maybe make a home together on the beach somewhere.
No success in that, guys.
Early in 2019, we decided to do a reconnaissance down the east coast of New South Wales to see whether we could find a home that we could make together on the beach. We arrived at Woolgoolga to visit Brian and Di. Now, Di had been a friend of Rhonda's since primary school days in Parramatta, and we found that they were moving into an Ingenia over 55s lifestyle resort. We had not thought about this as a possible option, but after discussion and prayerful consideration, we decided we'd do the same.
It was time for me to move. I was on 5 acres, and it looked like a park. It was beautiful, and even though Rob was working full time, he'd come up on the weekends and do his best to help me keep it looking good. But I was ready to move, and we both wanted to live by the water. We wanted to live on the south coast of New South Wales, but just couldn't find the right place. And yes, we called in to see Di and Brian, and they showed us all the information, and we just knew it was right. So we put a deposit down, then and there, on something that hadn't been built yet. And we've never looked back.
We moved into Plantations in July 2019 and decided that we would marry in March 2020 to cease the neighbours commenting that the couple living in Unit 14 were living in sin. For my part, I was tired of sleeping on the lounge.
Rob's left out some important things that make our relationship as special as it is. And that is, we had put a deposit on a place here in Plantations, and we came to look at it, and I just knew it wasn't right. I just knew that I couldn't do it, coming off 5 acres and living in such close quarters. And he was wonderful, you know. He just said, that's okay, I'll take you to Kingscliff and maybe we can find something there, which we did, and we couldn't. But the next day he got onto the internet, and Unit 14 that we're in now had just become available. And it just, he hasn't changed in 3.5 years. That's exactly how he handles anything that comes up. So that's our love story. What follows next is what was really quite sad, but it was an honour as well. And I have had a friend, we met in grade 4, Marion, who's married to another Rob. And Marion has had a terrible had a terrible battle with cancer. Thought she was over it, and then it came back. And we were visiting Rob and Maz at Kempsey, and privately she said to me, I just want to make it to Christmas and to your wedding. By then our September wedding had been postponed to March. She said, I just want to make it to your wedding. And Rob, being the man that he is, when we left, we both knew she wasn't going to make it to March. We knew she wasn't going to make it very far at all. She was really very ill. So Rob said, why don't we get married now and invite them to be our witnesses? And that's what we did. We got married on the 18th of September 2020, and our community manager videoed it for us. We had Rob and Maz and the pastor and his wife. And then that was, like I said, the 18th of September, and Mazzy died in the November. Her Rob had spoken to me many times and said she felt really honoured, and it was lovely for her, but it was just as lovely for us.
So what you're going to see next is the video of our official wedding, and we'll have an exchange of rings and a blessing from our pastor Amy from Lifehouse Church. Rhonda, 1st of February 2018, I walked home from a dinner party, and it became absolutely clear to me that you were not just another person that I'd met in the journey of life, but someone special that I needed to make contact with and then see what would unfold. And what's unfolded was a marvellous revelation that I believe came from God, that we were meant to be together. We explored that tentatively and gently, and then I know having declared a courtship and hopeful, but nonetheless understanding that you had lost the centre of your universe, your Richard, and whether that transition would have been sufficiently progressed to accept a new love in your life, especially when I came out of the blue, as you came out of the blue, but nonetheless to what I believe to be God's plan. I want to say to you before I make my declaration of intent that sometimes you've been concerned about your contribution to our relationship, and to whether somehow or other, because we come from such different backgrounds, have different experiences, different lives, and probably in a way different baggage, we all have kind of baggage, as to how that would all work. I want to say in front of everyone here that you have a generosity of spirit, a depth of love for me and for others, and a genuine soul that comes so generously to everyone, that I'm privileged to be able to marry you today.
How beautiful. I should patent that. That's beautiful. Robert, do you take Rhonda to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have her and to hold her from this day forward, to love, to honour and cherish in sickness and in health, forsaking all others for as long as you both shall live?
Before God, I do.
Amen. I now invite Rhonda to speak and make her commitment to Rob before I ask her the declaration of intent.
As you know, I did write something, but I don't want to read that because I need to speak from the heart.
Amen.
I met this man and I can't believe how beautiful he is. He is my friend, my confidant, and I love him with my whole heart. There is nothing I would change about you. Nothing. And each day gets better and better. And I thank God. And I thank you.
Now, Rhonda, do you accept Bob, under God,
Under God, I do.
to be your lawfully wedded husband? Let me read it out so that we go through, you hold the hands again. This is so precious. This is so beautiful. Rhonda, do you take Robert to be your lawfully wedded husband?
Yes.
To have him and to hold him from this day forward, to love, honour and cherish him in sickness and in health, or should I say in health and sometimes sickness, forsaking all others for as long now as you both shall live.
Yes, I do.
You do. It's making me feel very emotional. Rob and Rhonda, you have pledged your faith to each other in the company of your dear friends, Bob and Marion. By the power vested in me in the state of New South Wales and under God, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Rob and Marion, witness to this ceremony and exchange vows, I am proud to present you for the first time to these beautiful people as husband and wife, Robert John Breen and Rhonda Joyce Elliott Breen. Now you may do a COVID-free kiss.
Hello, my name is Pastor Amy Brockbank. I'm from Lifehouse Church here in Woolgoolga, beautiful Woolgoolga, where Rob and Rhonda have started their new season of life as a married couple. We're excited to have them come along and join the church at the beginning of this year. Just here is a special spot chosen, isn't it? Great location where Rob and Rhonda often walk together. Rob catches a few waves out there in the surf and also swims a few laps as Rhonda walks the beach often. And And so this is a special spot chosen to be here today and exchange rings for both of you. So, before we do that, we're going to hear from Chris, Rhonda's son, and we're also going to hear from Kelly, Rob's daughter, as they welcome both Rob and Rhonda into their families.
Hi everyone at Plantations and those of us gathered in front of Zoom screens across the country tuning into this lovely occasion. I know it's not the wedding that we'd all hoped to attend, but it's still nice that we can get together in small groups and celebrate this special day. Mum, Rob, despite the frustrations and the cancellations and the uncertainty of these times, you're making the best of this situation, as you do with all situations that come your way. Mum, I still remember how you were in the days and months after Dad passed. It was a struggle for you each day, and you wondered what the future held in store for you. I contrast that with how happy I can see you are now. Your renewed passion for life makes all of us who love you so happy to see. Rob, in preparing for this speech, I spoke with Dad's family to get an idea of how they felt about this next chapter in Mum's life. They could not have been more positive about welcoming you to the family and seeing our Mum happy again. They just want the best for you both, and they can see how good you are for each other. You and Mum complement one another. Rob, you've put a smile back on Mum's face and a spring in her step. You're a man of integrity and honour. You treat Mum with respect, love, dignity and care. I couldn't hold you in higher esteem than I do right now, and on behalf of the Elliots, I welcome you with open arms into our family. When the borders open, we look forward to coming down and celebrating with you in person, but for now, have a great night. Love you both. Bye.
I'd like to start by thanking those who've travelled. Distinguished guests. Yeah, you're all looking pretty good. She's unfiltered. Tick. She says what's on her mind. Tick. She likes a drink. Tick. She's a social butterfly. Tick. She thinks Dad's jokes are funny. Tick. Dad's smiling again. Big tick. She makes Dad happy. Tick. Ronnie, we are so thankful for you, and we are over the moon that you've turned the lights back on in Dad's heart. On behalf of my brother Benny and all of our family, we welcome you with open arms. And everyone that's important to you is now very important to us too. Congratulations. Love you guys.
So, in the Christian tradition, an exchange of rings symbolises the commitment made today, the sacred covenant that both of you have entered into together. You know, while the designs of rings differ, and yours is absolutely gorgeous, both of yours is, they are still, of course, circular in shape, all rings. A circle has no beginning or no end, and therefore is a symbol of eternity. And this wedding ring is an outward expression of an inward bond as two hearts unite as one, promising to love each other, forsake all others, and being faithful to each other. And Jesus asks us in John 15, he says, love each other as I have loved you. So Rob, please make your affirmation to Rhonda and place the ring on her finger.
Rhonda, I now complete my vows to you in this place that we both love by giving you this ring to wear as a public sign of our marriage. I affirm my love, loyalty and everlasting commitment before God and our family and friends. I commit to your welfare and to do my best to contribute to your happiness and fulfillment.
Rob, with all that I have and all that I am, I give you this ring as a token of my love, respect, fun and laughter. Love comes from humble beginnings and is created by imperfect beings. It is the process of making something beautiful where there was once nothing at all. This ring is my promise to you to accept your imperfections and grow in the love we have for each other. You are a darling ring, and I am truly blessed. Please take this ring.
Okay, we have now completed Rob and Rhonda's wedding ceremony that began last year to allow Marion, your dearest friend, Rhonda, your childhood friend, to attend before she passed away in November. Rest in peace, Marion. We'll never forget her, and your prayers are also with her and her husband, Rob, as he continues to grieve Marion's departure. So with that, I think it's now time for a kiss, and then your first joyous couple dance together.